Are you worried that LVNV might garnish your wages or might already be trying to garnish your wages? My name is Michael Waslick. I'm one of the lawyers at Ricardo and Waslick here in Florida, and together with my partner Jason Ricardo, we help people just like you overcome foreclosure and debt collection with dignity. And today we're going to talk about whether LVNV can garnish your wages and what to do if they start trying. First of all, a wage garnishment is something that can only take place after you've been already sued and a judgment's been entered, meaning that LVNV has already sued you and won a final judgment. And that can happen in a lot of different ways. One is that you actually participated in the court action and for whatever reason lost, or two, which is much more common, you did not participate in the court action even after you were served, and for whatever reason, you weren't part of that process, and because you were not part of the process, the court entered a default judgment against you. Now, there's a lot of different reasons that might have happened, and we'll talk about those a little bit more towards the end of the video, along with what you can do about it. But if you have a judgment entered against you, the next step for a judgment creditor, for the party that sued you, in this case LVNV, the next step for them is to seek garnishment of your wages as a way for them to get paid for the amount of the judgment. So if, for example, LVNV got a judgment of $2,000 against you, they might try to garnish your wages in order to get that $2,000 payment plus interest as it accrues over time. And in Florida, a wage garnishment can be up to 25% of your paycheck in payment of any judgment. So unless you want to lose 25% of every paycheck until that judgment's paid off, it's important for you to understand how to address garnishment. The procedure is this. Once the judgment's entered, the judgment creditor, in this case LVNV, will file what's called a motion for writ of garnishment, and they're asking the court to issue an order for your employer to withhold wages. They'll deliver a copy of that notice to your employer, to whoever is paying your paycheck, and your employer then has a duty to respond, and ideally they're supposed to notify you as well. And once that all happens, then you will get notice of your right to challenge the writ of garnishment, and you will have the opportunity to ask for an immediate hearing to see if you qualify for any of the legal protections that exist under Florida law. The two exemptions that most commonly apply are if you are what's called head of household, meaning you're supporting the other people in your household by paying more than half of their living expenses. So for example, if you have a spouse living with you and you pay more than half of the bills, if your income is greater than your spouse, you will usually qualify for head of household. If you have children that you are supporting and your income is greater than anyone else in the household, you're typically going to qualify for that. It depends on the unique facts of your situation, but in most cases, head of household is a very common way for people to avoid having wages garnished. The second thing you might claim is that these aren't actually wages. My income is solely retirement based. I might be making money off a retirement account or a 401k or getting Social Security benefits or something like that. In that case, you're going to be able to claim an exemption from garnishment because most retirement benefits, most retirement payments are going to be exempt under the law from any type of garnishment. When you receive a notice that a writ of garnishment has been requested, you will also get an exemption form, and it'll list some of the exemptions that might apply to you. You then have to follow the instructions on the form in order to qualify, in order to get that hearing. Because what you're going to want to do is, if you qualify for an exemption, you have to assert that and you have to submit that sworn statement to the court. If you file that exemption form, the other side then has the duty to respond to it in order to ask for that hearing. If they don't respond, then the writ will be automatically dissolved, or should be automatically dissolved without the need for any kind of hearing. The judge would just simply enter an order. And then any money that's been withheld from you will be returned, because typically speaking, while the proceedings are in play, your money will be withheld from you. If the judge determines that you're not qualified for an exemption, the writ continues, and then a quarter of your paycheck will be removed until the judgment is satisfied. So that's the procedure for how a writ of garnishment is requested, how a writ of garnishment is challenged, and how the court will rule on a writ of garnishment if it is properly challenged. If you're in a position where a judgment has been entered against you by LVNV or any other junk debt buyer, you're going to be living in fear that they can keep coming and keep coming and keep coming back on you every time they think your circumstances might have changed. If there's a change to your credit report, for example, they might try again. So you're going to have to deal with that every so often until and unless you get rid of that judgment. If this video was helpful to you in knowing how to respond to an LVNV garnishment, go ahead and leave a like, share it if you know somebody else who needs it. And if you are in a position where you have a judgment against you and you're going to be living in constant fear of having that garnishment attempt come after you and after you and after you every time your circumstances change, every time your credit report shows that you might be making more money, and you want to avoid having LVNV or any other junk debt buyer or any other judgment creditor come after you, you're in a position where you need to know how to get rid of that judgment, either by resolving it or by having the court enter an order vacating it, removing it entirely. And if you want to know how to attack a judgment that's been entered against you, watch the video I'm going to put up on screen now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.